April 20, 1943. Tunisia. The North African desert burns beneath the sun, a vast sea of heat and dust. The air trembles with the low thunder of artillery, and the sky, yellowed by sand and smoke, feels as if it's closing in. The men of the 28th Māori Battalion lie flat in shallow foxholes, sweat mixing with grit, their rifles clutched tight. Ahead, across the shimmering dunes, the black crosses of German Panzer IVs glint like predatory eyes. To their left, an entire platoon of the Afrika Korps maneuvers silently, moving with deadly precision, a machine honed by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the legendary Desert Fox. But the Maori men are no less fierce. They whisper ancient words, a karakia, a prayer, for strength and victory. Their voices rise softly under the howl of the desert wind. In this moment, they are not just soldiers. They are warriors, carrying the mana of their ancestors into battle. At the head of the battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Monty Fairbrother, a hardened leader respected by his men, peers through his binoculars. His voice crackles over the radio. "Company B, get ready. We move on my signal. Remember, silent until the first burst. Then give them hell." As dusk creeps across the desert, the temperature drops sharply. The Maori battalion, moving like shadows, slips through the jagged terrain. Their objective, a German supply post dug into a ridge overlooking the valley, a stronghold guarded by machine guns and tanks. No heavy armor supports them tonight. No air cover. Just courage, bayonets, and a relentless will to fight. At 2,200 hours, the first flare arcs across the sky, painting the sand blood red. The silence shatters. A roar erupts from the Maori line as they charge uphill, rifles blazing, their battle cry splitting the night. Ache! Ache! Kia kaha! Forever and ever, be strong. The Germans, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, scramble to defend. Bullets rip through the darkness. Mortar rounds explode, shaking the ground. Yet the Maori keep coming, fast, disciplined, terrifying in their momentum. Private Wairmu Katine, a wiry soldier from Northland, vaults a trench and drives his bayonet forward, shouting above the chaos. To his right, Sergeant Hemi Maitna tosses a grenade into a machine gun nest, the explosion lighting the sand like lightning. Within minutes, the ridge is theirs. Smoke drifts over the captured position. The Maori men gather their wounded, their faces streaked with dust and blood, but their eyes burn with triumph. A British officer observing the assault later mutters, almost in disbelief, "I've never seen men fight like that. Not even the Gurkhas." That night, reports reach Rommel's forward HQ. His intelligence officers describe New Zealanders of native origin leading the charge, men who fight with reckless bravery, who seem immune to fear. Rommel listens quietly, then leans back in his chair. "These Maori," he says at last, "they fight like ghosts of old warriors. Tell our men, they are not to underestimate them." For the 28th Māori Battalion, this is only the beginning. Their legend is being forged in the fire of the desert. April 19, 1943. Central Tunisia. The village of Takrouna sits perched atop a jagged limestone hill, rising 600 feet above the desert floor. A natural fortress. And on it, dug in deep, are veteran troops of Rommel's Afrika Korps and Italian Bersaglieri sharpshooters. For days, British and New Zealand divisions had battered the hill with artillery, yet the enemy still held fast. Machine guns raked every approach. Snipers watched every path. But tonight, the Maori battalion would attempt what others could not, a direct assault on the summit. The moon hung low, half-shrouded by dust. Sergeant Hain Manahi, a quiet man from Rotorua, led a small group of men up the steep slope. Each carried a Lee Enfield rifle, grenades strapped to their belts, bayonets fixed. The rock beneath their boots crumbled with every step. Above them, German flares hissed and burst, turning night into a ghostly daylight. A bullet cracked past Manahi's ear. He ducked, whispering a command, "Keep moving. Close in. We take it from the top." They climbed in silence, slipping through crevices, crawling over boulders slick with dust. The smell of cordite and burned oil hung thick in the air. Halfway up, they came under fire from a dug-in machine gun nest. Without hesitation, Manahi motioned 2 men forward. Grenades arced through the air. The gun went silent. When they finally reached the crest, they found themselves face to face with a German outpost. For a heartbeat, both sides froze. Then the hill erupted in chaos. The Maori charged, shouting war cries that echoed through the valley. Private Rengi Logan recalled later, "It wasn't like any battle before. It felt ancient. Like our ancestors were with us on that hill." In less than 20 minutes, the summit was taken. The Maori had captured Takrouna with barely 50 men, against hundreds. They turned captured machine guns around and used them against counterattacking Germans and Italians below. Down in the valley, Allied soldiers looked up to see the impossible, the Maori flag fluttering from the top of Takrouna. By dawn, Rommel's officers reported the position lost. The Desert Fox himself, far to the west, was said to have shaken his head in disbelief. "No ordinary soldiers," he murmured. "Warriors." But victory came at a terrible price. Dozens lay dead or wounded on the hill. Manahi's hands were burned, his uniform torn to shreds, yet he refused evacuation. When medics found him, he was still organizing defenses, ensuring no counterattack could retake the summit. For his actions at Takrouna, Sergeant Hayne Manahi was recommended for the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest military honor. But the award was later downgraded to a Distinguished Conduct Medal, a decision that remains controversial to this day. The men didn't speak much about that. For them, honor wasn't found in medals. It was found in the brotherhood they shared, in the way they fought, side by side, without fear. That night, as the wind swept through the quiet dunes, the survivors gathered around small fires. They sang softly in Te Reo Maori, their voices carrying across the desert. Warriors far from home, singing for those who would never return. Before the deserts of North Africa, before the dust and heat and thunder of Rommel's war machine, the 28th Māori Battalion had already tasted battle, and loss, on the stony hills of Greece and the island of Crete. April 1941. Mount Olympus, Greece. The chill of early spring clings to the mountains. Snow dusts the ridges as columns of Allied troops retreat southward. The German blitzkrieg has smashed through Yugoslavia and now presses hard on the New Zealand division. Among them, the Maori Battalion, green to the war, but already earning a reputation for their fierce discipline and loyalty. In the darkness, Captain Arapita Awatir, commanding C Company, surveys the narrow mountain pass. His men are exhausted, hungry, and wet from the sleet. Yet their orders are clear: hold the line, by time for the evacuation of Allied troops toward the southern ports. At dawn, the first German patrols appear. Paratroopers, quick and ruthless, moving through the mist. The Maori wait in silence, rifles steady. Then a single rifle cracks. Chaos erupts. The valley echoes with gunfire and shouted commands in 2 languages. Awatir's men fight like cornered lions. They ambush, withdraw, and counterattack with uncanny precision. Even the German officers later remark on their discipline, unusual for such a newly arrived colonial battalion. When the ammunition runs low, bayonets gleam in the fog. But the tide cannot be stopped. After 2 weeks of fighting, the Allied line collapses. The Maori retreat under cover of night, leaving behind wounded comrades buried in the stony earth of a foreign land. Their ordeal continues on Crete, where the battalion is ordered to defend Malim airfield, an objective critical to both sides. On May 20, 1941, German paratroopers descend from the skies like locusts. Hundreds fall before they even touch the ground, cut down by precise Maori fire. "Keep firing," shouts Lieutenant Te Moananui Akiwa Ngarama, his voice rising above the rattle of machine guns. The men hold fast, but the onslaught is endless. For days, they fight without rest, hand to hand among olive groves and stone walls. When Crete finally falls, the Maori are among the last to withdraw. Many are captured, some vanish in the chaos. Yet the Germans, victorious as they are left shaken by the ferocity of these New Zealanders with tattooed faces and fire in their eyes. Those who survive regroup in Egypt. Hardened now, tempered by loss. They've learned the rhythms of war, the weight of sand in a rifle bolt, the taste of fear before dawn. They carry with them memories of comrades who never came home and the unspoken promise that their deaths will not be in vain. By the time Rommel's panzers roar across Cyrenaica, the Maori battalion is no longer a fresh colonial force. They are professionals, battle-tested, cunning, and relentless. Their officers know it. Their enemies will soon learn it. As they move toward the front lines again, the men sing softly, their voices low and steady. Ete hokawidu atu, katutonu matu. O warriors of Tu, God of war, we will stand, always. The desert awaits them. And in that desert, they will carve their name into legend. By late 1942, the North African campaign had become a brutal test of endurance. The sands between El Alamein and Tripoli were soaked with oil, blood, and shattered metal. Here, the 28th Māori Battalion would meet the full force of Rommel's Afrika Korps, and earn the respect of the man himself. October 23, 1942. El Alamein, Egypt. The desert lies still under a ghostly moon. Far in the distance, artillery flashes pulse like lightning on the horizon. The calm before the storm. In the Maori lines, the men move quietly through the trenches, checking weapons, filling canteens, whispering to one another in Te Reo Maori. Each knows what is coming, the biggest offensive the British 8th Army has ever launched. Remember, says Lieutenant Colonel Monty Fairbrother, his voice steady, we break through tonight. Rommel's not expecting us to come hard and fast. We hit their flank and we don't stop until we're through. At 2,140 hours, the night explodes. Over 800 British guns unleash their fire at once. The earth trembles. The sky turns orange. Sand and smoke swallow everything. The barrage rolls forward like a moving wall of thunder, and behind it, the Maori battalion advances. The men move in tight formation, bayonets fixed, through a labyrinth of barbed wire and minefields. Machine guns chatter ahead, their tracers slicing through the dark. Still they advance. The smell of burning fuel mixes with the sharp sting of cordite. Private Horite Howe, crawling through a gap in the wire, hears the scream of a Stuka diving overhead. The bomb misses by yards, sending a geyser of sand skyward. Keep going, he yells, voice hoarse. They can't hit what doesn't stop. By dawn, they've broken through the first German defensive line. Bodies and wrecked vehicles litter the sand. Rommel's men fight hard, but they've met a different kind of enemy now. The Maori move with a rhythm all their own, fast, fearless, organized chaos. As the sun rises, they dig in near Maitaria Ridge, repelling wave after wave of counterattacks. Mortar fire rains down, but the Maori stand firm. One German officer later writes in his diary, "They do not fight like other soldiers. They move like hunters, silent until the moment they strike." Back at Afrika Korps headquarters, Rommel receives fragmented reports. His elite Italian and German units have been thrown back by New Zealanders of exceptional ferocity. He studies the maps, frowning. "Which New Zealanders?" he asks. His aide replies, "The Maori Battalion, sir." Rommel nods slowly. Then it makes sense. For weeks, the battle rages. The 28th fights at Minker El Alamein, and later during the pursuit across Libya. They ambush convoys, overrun machine gun nests, and drive Rommel's army westward across the desert. Their tactics, stealthy night raids, close-quarter assaults, become legendary. Even enemy prisoners whisper about them. The Black Ghosts, they call them. They come at night, shouting their war cries. You hear them before you see them, and by then, it's too late. By the time Rommel withdraws to Tunisia, the 28th Māori Battalion has cemented its reputation as one of the finest infantry units in the Allied Army. They've fought the Desert Fox to a standstill, and lived to tell the tale. But the war isn't over. Ahead lies Italy, and the hardest campaign yet. As they rest in the desert twilight, the men look toward the west, toward the fading sun. They have survived Greece, Crete, and Africa. Yet deep down, they know the gods of war are not done with them. When the Desert War ended, the men of the 28th Māori Battalion were weary but unbroken. Their bodies bore the scars of years of fighting, but their spirit, tempered in blood and fire, remained unyielding. Now, as the Allies turned their eyes to Europe, the Māori Battalion prepared for another brutal chapter. Italy, 1943. December 1943. Near Orsogna, Italy. The cold here is nothing like the desert. The air smells of pine and smoke, mud sucks at the men's boots with every step. The once golden warriors of the desert are now trudging through freezing rain, surrounded by ruined villages and snow-dusted hills. The enemy is no longer Rommel's Afrika Korps, it's the German Wehrmacht, holding the high ground in the Apennine Mountains. Every ridge, every farmhouse, every stone wall is fortified. For the Maori, this is a new kind of hell, cold, close, and relentless. Captain Arapita Awatir surveys the shattered town of Orsogna through his field glasses. They're dug in deep, he mutters. But that's never stopped us before. The order comes at dawn. The battalion will attack from the north, advancing through vineyards and olive groves to seize the hilltop overlooking the village. Rain lashes the men as they move out, their boots sinking in mud. The crack of rifles echoes off the hillsides. As they climb, the Germans open fire. Machine guns chatter from stone farmhouses. Mortar shells explode in the trees, raining splinters and earth. Still, the Maori advance, firing as they move, their war cries ringing through the mist. Private Taiping Tipi Peora ducks behind a stone wall, shouting to his mate, "This isn't the desert, eh?" His friend grins, teeth flashing white through the grime. Nah, but the Germans still bleed the same. They charge again, clearing one house after another. Inside, German soldiers lie dead beside their MG-42s. The fighting is vicious, personal, fought room to room with grenades and bayonets. By nightfall, the Maori hold the ridge. The cost is heavy, too heavy, but they've done what others could not. The campaign drags on for months. They fight through Cassino, Faenza, and Florence, names that will forever be etched into their memories. Cassino, in particular, is a nightmare, rubble, rain, and death in every direction. There, in the shadow of the ruined abbey, Lieutenant Te Moananuiakiwa Ngarama leads a heroic stand. When his company is pinned down by relentless fire, he rises to his feet, rallying his men with calm determination. Wounded twice, he refuses to withdraw. He single-handedly charges a German position, capturing it before being fatally hit by machine gun fire. His courage inspires the battalion to fight on with renewed fury. After the battle, Ngarama is posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross, the first Maori ever to receive it. At home in New Zealand, the award ceremony is broadcast to a nation listening in reverent silence. His mother accepts the medal on his behalf, her face proud, unbroken, and full of quiet sorrow. Through 1944 and 1945, the Maori Battalion continues to push northward with the Allied advance. Their ranks are thinner now, many replaced by younger volunteers who look up to the veterans as living legends. Together, they fight through mud, mountains, and blood until the German surrender in Italy. When victory finally comes, the men gather on a quiet hillside near Trieste. No celebration, no parades, just a moment of silence. They think of their fallen comrades, those buried in the sands of Africa, the fields of Greece, and the cold soil of Italy. Private Katine breaks the silence. We made it, brothers. We kept the manna. A simple sentence. But in it lies the story of all they endured. When the guns finally fell silent in Europe, the men of the 28th Māori Battalion began their long journey home. The war that had taken them from the far corners of the world, across mountains, deserts, and shattered cities, was over. Yet the weight of what they carried would never fully leave them. August 1945. Wellington, New Zealand. A grey morning mist rolls across the harbour as the troopship docks. On deck, hundreds of weary soldiers stand in silence, their faces older than their years. They wear the badges of the 2nd New Zealand Division, and among them, standing proudly though many are limping or bandaged, are the men of the Māori Battalion. As the gangway lowers, a murmur rises from the crowd on the docks. Then a haka begins. Deep, powerful, resonant. Families, tribes, and children cry out in rhythm, welcoming their warriors home. The sound shakes the air like thunder. Private Wairmu Katine grips the railing, eyes wet. Listen to that, he whispers. That's for us. The haka grows louder as the men disembark. Some smile, others weep openly. Mothers cling to sons who left as boys. Widows embrace friends of the fallen. Each reunion carries both joy and sorrow. For every man who steps off that ship, another never returned. Back home, life resumes slowly. The battalion's veterans scatter across New Zealand, some to farms, others to factories or government jobs. But the war has changed them. They've seen too much, lost too many. Yet their legacy endures. Stories of their courage spread across the country, and across the world. In military circles, commanders speak with reverence of the Maori Battalion's discipline and ferocity. Rommel himself, long before his own death, had reportedly told a captured British officer, "Give me 1,000 of your Maori soldiers, and I could conquer the world." For the Maori people, the battalion becomes a symbol of unity and pride. Their service bridges tribal lines, uniting iwi under a shared sacrifice. The songs of the 28th echo at gatherings and ceremonies for decades to come, songs of courage, sorrow, and brotherhood. In the years after the war, memorials rise across New Zealand. The names of the fallen are carved into stone, men who fought on foreign soil so that freedom might endure. Among them, Ngaramu, Manahi, Awatir, and hundreds more. At reunions, aging veterans gather in their old uniforms, medals gleaming against weathered chests. They share laughter, stories, and quiet tears. They speak of Crete and Alamein, of Takrouna and Casino, of brothers who fought beside them and now lie in graves half a world away. When asked what made them fight so fiercely, Sergeant Hemi Maitna once answered simply, "We weren't just fighting for the king or the empire. We were fighting for our ancestors, for our manna. That's something no enemy could ever take from us." As decades pass, their numbers grow fewer. Yet their spirit lives on, in schools, in songs, in the blood of new generations. At the National War Memorial in Wellington, a carved stone bears their motto. Ache. Ache. Kia kaha. Forever and ever, be strong. They were the warriors of the 28th Māori Battalion. The men even the desert fox feared. And though the guns of war are silent, their voices still echo across time, carried on the wind, fierce and proud, reminding all who hear them that courage knows no color, no border, and no end.